Ago, but we're going to go ahead and ask it again. Did everybody have a good break that had a school break? I know some of you guys, I thought Albertville's was the week before, but it turns out Albertville's are this week. So, but did everybody have a good break that had a break?
Good.
Yeah? Okay. No, maybe, kind of, sort of. Don't really care, didn't matter. Slept late anyway? Yeah? All right. Good deal. Did anybody show up last week thinking we were supposed to have class and we didn't have class? Good. You did? Well, I kind of thought at least one of you would, or one or two of you, because it's one of those easy things to forget. You're used to having class every week, and it's kind of easy to forget, hey, this week we don't have class. And the way parents' lives are very busy, it's easy to forget, especially if you come to Mass anyway.
I had 3 soccer games yesterday.
You had 3 soccer games yesterday? Boy, I bet you were tired, weren't you? Whew. How long are your soccer games per game?
Like hours.
Oh, they're not hours.
Like
Only professional soccer, I think, is what, 90 minutes or something like that? Well, yeah, for all of them. I'm talking about each game. Like 30 minutes? 1 hour? Is it 1 hour? 1 hour a game? Okay, I wasn't sure. Soccer, that's a sport I'd like to kind of get into just because I don't know much about it. Like learning rules and
Daddy,
things like that.
how about we, before we eat, we pray?
We're going to. We're going to pray before we get started, okay? Everybody's having their snack. That's okay. But we're going to pray before we start class. Because we need to keep doing that, and sometimes I forget to do it. And it's a good way for us to go over the prayers we need to learn. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't eat that, so I'm okay.
Okay, go ahead. There you go. Good job. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and say our opening prayer for today, okay? In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. That's a prayer that if you don't know it, you're going to have to learn it. Okay? Because that is one of the that's one of 3 prayers that we use that we use a lot for penance after reconciliation. Okay? And it's also a prayer you hear every Sunday at the Mass. You say it every Sunday. So if you don't know it, you're going to learn it, and it won't be very hard because you hear it. It's one you hear a lot. And we're also going to learn the Hail Mary and the Glory Be. Does everybody know those? Anybody know those already? Hail Mary and Glory Be? Good. But it's okay if you don't. It's okay if you don't. We're going to learn them. It's okay if you don't. All right. So we're going to go back over just for a brief minute what we've already talked about. Okay. We talked about in the last few weeks about Passover, right? The title for this particular part of our book is called Preparing the Way for Christ. Okay?
Is this the right page in that?
That's the right page we're on. I'll make sure to tell you what page to turn to. So, but we talked about the Israelites, and we talked about Moses, and we talked about Passover, right? Does everybody remember? Yes, no, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I slept through that class. Everybody remember that though? We talked about the Israelites and Passover and then Moses. Okay? And we talked about sacrifice. Okay? We talked about what God does for us. We talked about how God provides for us. And we talked about these things, right? Does anybody remember? Huh? Yes? No? I don't know. You remember? Okay, good. Okay. What's the one things we also learned some other things. What's the 3 things I talked about if you don't remember anything else that you need to remember in this class? What's the class for? What is this class? Communion. First communion and first reconciliation, which are what? Sacraments. I know I say that every week. But there's a reason why I say that every week. Because we need to remember this. That's very important.
Because that makes us.
Well, it gives us what? What does it help? Grace, right. You guys are remembering and listening. And grace makes us holy. Very good. You guys actually are listening to me a little bit. Good deal. You're not just up there, man, I wish he'd be quiet so I could eat my Cheez-Its. Okay, good. All right, good deal. Good deal. All right. All right. Sacraments. Sacraments. Now, here's another question I don't know that I've actually said, but hopefully you guys will know anyway. Who gave us our sacraments? This is kind of a side note. Who gave us our sacraments? God, yes, absolutely. God gave us our sacraments. But God in the form of who? Jesus. Jesus is the one who gave us the sacraments. They came when Jesus came. Okay? Okay. Now, we talk about the sacraments. We talk about communion. When do we receive communion? When do we do that? What goes on over there hopefully every day? Mass. Right. Okay. That's another word I want you guys to remember. The Mass. And you'll hear it said, it's the Mass. Okay? All right. We call it Mass. Oh, have you been to Mass? Yes, I've been to Mass. You're going to go to Mass. Okay, yeah, we're going to go to Mass. I went to Mass yesterday. Yes. But it's the Mass. The Mass. Okay? Yes. But the Mass. Okay? Because it's not so much just church, it's actually its own thing because of communion. Okay? That's when we receive a sacrament. Okay. Now you can go to Mass and not receive a sacrament, and some folks do, especially those that are coming into the church and they're not received other sacraments yet.
Viruses can be an invisible killer.
Yes, that is very true, but that's not what we're talking about right now. That is very true. You cannot see a virus.
Let's remember to use the microphone.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yes. Got to remember to use the microphone. And for those watching at home, Ann asked if we knew that viruses could be, you said an invisible killer? That is very true. We can do that. Which is part of why we do wear our masks. Yes, ma'am. Go to the bathroom. Okay. Now, one thing we're going to talk about right quick on page 15, if everybody's not already on page 15 yet. Okay. We are going to pick up today, and hopefully, if we don't get this section finished today, we will finish it next week, but I hope we get it today. Okay. Doubt it. We might. It's possible. Because these books, between this and the other for reconciliation, we're supposed to teach us over 2 years, so I'm not getting in too big a hurry. Okay, but we're on page 15. Now, we've talked about sacraments. We've talked about grace. And we've talked about being holy, right? Okay, now, let me ask you this question to see if it's something that you already know. Okay. If you receive grace and you are made holy, right? Okay. Now, and you die and you go to heaven, what does that make you? If you die in a state of grace and you go to heaven, what does that make you? Does anybody know what that makes you?
Holy.
Doesn't make you holy. True, but it makes you something else. No, not a sacrifice. No. And I want to talk about that for just a second, too, as well. People talk about, angels and stuff like that. Angels are separate things, okay? All right? You might be your parents' angel in that they call you an angel, but angels are something completely different. Did you all know that you all have a guardian angel? The minute you were born, you have a guardian angel? Mm-hmm. That angel's sole job is to help you. An angel has no other job but to help you. Help keep you safe, pray for you, and that sort of thing. That's that angel's job, just to guard you. Okay? Now, but back to my original point. If you are holy, okay, remember that's what we try to get, because when you're holy, you go where when you die? Heaven. Okay. So let's say you were holy, very holy, and you died, and you go to heaven. What does that then make you?
A saint.
A saint. Very good. That's the word I was looking for. A saint. Now, you guys have all heard the word saint, right? You've never heard the word saint? Oh, yes, you have. You just may not realize you have. Okay. Who comes around Christmas time? Santa. Okay. Now, Santa, especially for those of you that speak Spanish, know Santa, if you hear it, speaking Spanish, means what? Saint. Means saint. Okay. Means saint. That will say, but there's also Saint Nicholas, right? But Saint Nicholas was a saint. Now, if you get the title of saint before your name, usually you'll see it as like ST, abbreviated. Okay, abbreviated as ST. Saint can be kind of a long word to write out all the time. No, not Saint Daddy. Okay. But when you have the word saint, that means that the church has recognized that you are in heaven. Now, are there lots of saints that are in heaven that we don't know that they're in heaven? Yes, I'm sure there are. But there's only certain ones that we know are there. And the church, which we won't go into all of that today, but the church has ways to help know that we're in that people have made it to heaven. Okay. How many of you ever heard of Pope John Paul II? Some of you may or not. You guys are a little bit young. Pope John Paul was a few years ago. But for me and Miss Gina, we very much know who Pope John Paul was. He was, when I was not born Catholic, okay? I came into the church many years ago, but I came into the church a long time ago. He was the Pope when I came into the church. And everybody knows who the Pope is, right? Not necessarily like who he is, but like what he does, right? He's the leader of the church around the world. He's the leader of the Catholic Church around the world. Okay. He is Father Mark is our pastor. He's the pastor for the whole world. Okay. Have another drink? Well, you're just sucking it down, aren't you? Yeah, go. Did you get one? You need another one? Okay, well, we can't do a whole another one, I think Miss Debbie allots one, but we'll do 2 today just for you guys. All right. Okay. But he died in 2005, I think. Don't worry about where Jenna went. He died, I believe, in 2006. Because I was in Iraq in 2005. I think he died in 2006. So he's been passed away for quite some time. Just a few years ago, he was named a saint. So now he would be Saint Pope. Well, shoot, if I can write. Saint. 2005. It was 2005. I guess it was after I got back from Iraq. Okay. Saint Pope. And we'll just abbreviate the rest. That's okay. Get you one of those. Saint Pope, well, that's supposed to be a P. Saint Pope John Paul II. Okay. Now, that title of saint means that the church recognizes that he is in heaven and he can pray for you. Okay. And there were miracles that happened because of Saint Pope John Paul. But there is Saint Paul as well. Okay. Now, when we talk about saints, we have a saint here in our book that we're going to talk about for a little bit. When we talk about being holy and receiving sacraments, okay, one thing that we should all try to be as we grow up is holy. We should all...
My shirt's waterproof.
Your shirt's waterproof? Okay.
I spilled juice on it, and also the juice just fell off, and it's still dry.
Okay. We might not have had time to sink in. But, okay, when we grow, as we grow up, as we get older, okay, we should all try to be holy, okay? There's a word that we use, kind of a grown-up word, strive. We should strive to be saints, which means that when we die, hey, get over.
I thought she wanted one, but she said she didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, just here. All right. When we get older, we should try to become saints. Okay. Now, are we all going to become saints? Hopefully so. Will the church recognize us all as saints? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. What? Kayla?
I said I wanted one Genesis to
I cut it out.
What?
Just stop interrupting. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about this particular saint right here, St. Catherine of Siena. Okay. As a young girl, St. Catherine of Siena dedicated her life to serving Christ. She lived at a time when people were confused about what the church taught, and they were hungry for the truths of the faith. Okay. They were hungry for the truths of the faith. What does hungry usually mean? You want to eat, right? Okay. Have you ever been curious about something? Like you see something, you're like, I wonder how that works. I wonder how you do that. I wonder what happens when this happens. Okay? We all get curious about things, right? But there are some times when you're curious to the point that you don't think about much else. You ever had times like that? Where you're like, man, it's all I can think about. I want to know how this works. I want to know how that works. That would be being hungry for something like that you want to think about. Okay? So that's what that means, hungry for the truths of the faith. Okay? You're going to hear the word truth a lot. Okay? Especially the longer you stay in the church, and hopefully I hope you all stay in the church all your lives, but you're going to hear the word truth a lot. Okay? And the church teaches the truth. If something is true, what is something called that's not true?
False.
False. Right. Okay. But we teach the truths of the faith. Okay. God used Catherine to feed people's minds and hearts with the truth they needed so they could grow closer to Jesus. Okay. For many years, she ate no food but the Eucharist. Think about that for just a second. Okay? She ate no food but the Eucharist. Okay? All right. Now, how many of you ate breakfast this morning? Yeah? I can't say that, but I wasn't very hungry when I woke up this morning. Okay. But you eat breakfast every day, right? Or most of the time. How many of you are going to have lunch today? Yeah, just about, everybody's going to have lunch. Unless you had a big breakfast, and then, of course, you don't want lunch. And that sort of thing. Okay. Now, if you don't eat, let's say you had a big breakfast, but you skipped lunch. By the time you get to supper time, you're going to be pretty hungry, aren't you? Okay. You're going to be, you might even be what they call hangry. You're angry because you're hungry, right? Anybody ever get hangry? I know I get hangry. I just get ill, and I just want something to eat so bad, and I just get ill. So, but now imagine eating nothing but the Eucharist. Okay?
If I don't eat, my mom said to wait, and she says, yeah, just eat. And I'm like, no, I'm starving.
You're starving?
And my dad said, let me call my dad. And she's like, no. And I'm like, I'm still starving. My tummy is rumbling, and I'm starving here. And she's like, okay, fine. Then we get up. I'm like, yes, food.
But imagine eating nothing. Imagine eating nothing but the Eucharist. Okay, that's a good question. I was hoping somebody would ask that question because I was going to explain what the Eucharist was. But I wanted someone to ask the question. Very good. Yes, ma'am.
What is
That, well, he already asked it, but that's the question I want to ask. What is the Eucharist? Okay, let me write that word down. Make sure I'm spelling it right. You're going to hear this word a lot too. Yeah. Yeah, I spelled that right. Okay. Now, what is the Eucharist? Does anybody know what the Eucharist is already? Okay. I'm going to point. What do you think? What do you think it is?
Something that looks like aloe vera.
No, it's not something that looks like aloe vera.
I think it is God. Bread. I think it's taco. Taco. Confirmation.
Not confirmation.
Communion.
It's communion. Okay? When Father, listen, settle down. When Father holds up that little white cracker looking thing, cookie.
Not a crack.
It's a little white piece of bread. It's unleavened bread, which means it's not like loaf bread. But it kind of looks like a white cracker that's round. Yes, look at the back of your books. Very good. Look at the back of your books. Just flip, there you go. You see that? You see that right there? Jose, hold that up. Hold that up too, so make sure everybody can see. All right? See the back of your book? See the back of your book? See that? What is he holding right there? Exactly. The Eucharist. The Eucharist. The Eucharist is a Latin. If you trace back what the word means, where it came from, it goes back to Latin for thanksgiving. Okay? Thanksgiving's coming up, right? Halloween is, of course, here in just a couple of weeks, a few weeks. But the next major holiday after that is what? Thanksgiving. What? I'm sorry, I still didn't understand what you said.
I remember when I go there.
You go there? Okay. All right. But when we use the word Thanksgiving in the sense that we talk about the holiday, we're talking about being thankful for the things that have happened to us. All right, settle down, everybody. The things that happened to us during the year. When we use the term Eucharist to describe communion, that word means thanksgiving, that we are thankful that we are receiving God. We are receiving Jesus. Okay? Did you guys realize that? When you take communion for the first time, okay? You guys hearing me? When you guys take communion for the first time, and every time thereafter, you will actually be receiving the body and blood of Jesus.
How about we turn to this page?
How about you let me teach the class? Okay? Now, all right, we will be receiving the body and blood of Jesus. Now, everybody look at your arm. Is that part of your body?
Yes.
Right. Look at your other arm. Is that part of your body?
Yes.
You can't see your eyeballs because you look through your eyeballs, but is that a part of your body? Yeah, you're trying. But can you see? But you can see your body, right? Can you?
Your eyeballs in the mirror.
In a mirror, right? But these are all parts of your body, right?
Yeah.
Now, when we go to when we go to Mass, do you see someone's actual flesh?
No.
No. Their actual blood?
No.
No. But it still becomes the body and blood of Jesus. Now, does it look like flesh like we have? Does it look like blood like we have? No, it does not. It still has the appearance. It still has the appearance of bread and wine. Okay? It still has that appearance, which means it still looks like that. And there's a whole great big fancy word that we will talk about in the future that describes what that is. It's called transubstantiation. We'll talk about that another time. That's a great big word. There's a lot of what's called theology that goes into that word that people still have a hard time understanding, because this is a miracle that, essentially, it's a miracle that happens every week. All right, everybody, hey, let's pay attention. Let's keep it together. Let's keep it together. Okay. But when we receive the body and blood of Christ, that is, we are receiving that sacrament. But when we refer to it as what it actually physically is, we call it the Eucharist. And the Eucharist is not just the bread. It's also the wine. It's not just the body. It's also the blood. Okay? Now, right now, because of COVID-19, we don't receive both the body and the blood, those of us that have already received our first communion. When you go to Mass, we don't receive the blood. The reason why is because we don't want people drinking after each other. Okay? Because you have to put those in special cups, which is called a chalice. Okay. It's actually made of gold. Okay. All right, let's settle down. Let's settle down. Okay. All right. Say, hey. Settle down. Settle down. Okay. We don't want people getting sick. Okay. But hopefully when COVID has passed by, and I hope this happens before you guys receive your first communion, you will be able to receive both the body and the blood. But if you only receive the body or you only receive the blood, you still receive Jesus. Okay? Make sure you remember that. But we'll go back to what we were talking about in the book. For many years, she ate no food but the Eucharist. The reason why I wanted to make sure you understood what that meant was because she had no other food. But that's all she needed for her. God used her in a very special way, and that's what she needed. She needed the Eucharist. And God gave her that ability to be able to continue to go on, though she wasn't eating normal food like everybody else. This reminds us of when God gave manna to his people in the desert. They were lost and hungry and needed him to fill their hunger. St. Catherine shows us that God will always provide what we need. Okay. Remember what we talked about the last few weeks? We talked about the Israelites, and we talked about the Passover, and we talked about them leaving and then going to the promised land that God gave them, right? Okay, does everybody remember that? Yes, no, I don't know, kind of maybe. I've slept since then, so I don't remember that. Okay. What did God give them in the desert? Remember, how long did I say that they walked in the desert before they got to the promised land? How many years? How many? 40 years. Long time, right? Long time. And they would have had to pack a lot of food and been able to get a lot of food. And they were in the desert. Deserts don't always have a lot of food. They do have food. There are things in the desert you can eat, but they don't necessarily have a lot. No, coconuts are not in the desert. Palm trees are near the ocean. Egypt has a desert, yes. Say that one more time.
Egypt has a desert?
Egypt has a desert, yes. Part of Egypt is a desert, yes. Okay. Especially today. Okay. Well, say that one more time.
They can probably get water from the cactus.
Okay. I don't know this part. I don't know that the desert in that area of the world has cactus. I think that may be an American thing, or at least maybe. I think so. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that. But you could get water from cactus. Now, could you have enough water to give to thousands of people? Not necessarily. But even though there was deserts, there were rivers. So there are rivers in the desert, believe it or not. It may be a desert, but sometimes they do have rivers. Okay. Now, let's get okay. Let's keep going. Now, but what was the last thing right there? St. Catherine shows us that God will always provide what we need. When the Israelites were walking through the desert for this 40 years, God gave them what? Bread, which they called manna. What does manna mean? What is it? That's what manna means. It means, what is it in Hebrew? Okay? Let's make sure we remember that.
There are no naturally occurring cactus in Egypt.
Okay, there are no naturally occurring cactus in Egypt. I didn't think so. I didn't want to say that I knew that for sure, but I didn't think that was the case. That's what Google said. And Google, of course, knows everything, right? Okay. All right. So Saint Catherine, if we look at her life, if we think about what she did, okay, she lived for many years on just the Eucharist. Whoever's singing, could you stop, please? Okay. Thank you. Because it's kind of hard. It's, I'm having to talk over you and all the noise in the room. Okay. But St. Catherine, with her life now, think about this. When she lived her life, people could look at her and if they realized what she was doing, they could see that God was using her to show that God gives you what you need. All right? What are the 3 things in life that we absolutely need? Food. Well, we'll count that as food. Food and water. Clothes. And what else? What are we inside right now? A building. What else is building? What else would be a building called?
Shelter.
A shelter. You've got to have 3 things in this world to survive. Food or water. We have food and water, clothing and shelter. Why do you have to have clothing? Because it gets cold or it's hot. Think about it. We wear clothes in the summertime, right? You feel hot. But if that sun were on all of your body all the time, you'd get really, really hot. Your clothes actually help protect you even in the summertime from the sun. No, it makes you feel hot. You'd be much hotter if you didn't have it. I promise. Okay. I've lived in this general area all my life. This is kind of a side story. I've lived in this general area all my life. And older women, when they would work out in their gardens during the day, they would wear shirts that were long sleeved all the way as far down their arm as they could. And then they would put on gloves in a lot of cases. And they would wear either a really long dress or long pants. Okay? And then they would put on what's called a bonnet, which is it's a hat that they can tie around their neck, but it goes down all the way down their neck and then out over their face a little bit. So it works like a hat, like the brim of a hat, and it helps keep the sun out of their eyes. Now, it would be 90-something degrees outside, which is pretty warm, and they would be all dressed like this out there working in the garden. If they were, chopping up weeds to get them away from the plants or out harvesting, vegetables and things like that, working in the garden. Now, if you wear a lot of clothes and it's, okay, all right, everybody in here's got cooler weather clothes on, right? Yeah. Now, if you wore, say, your hoodie outside and it's 90 degrees, you're going to sweat pretty good, right? You'll sweat a lot. But the reason why these women wore this clothes, even though they would sweat more with them on, is because it protected their skin from the sun. So ultimately, it made them cooler. You don't think about that, but the less that the sun touches your skin, the cooler you're going to be. Because if you sweat and then the wind blows, it's going to cool you off. That's why we sweat. Okay, I know that's not, we're here to learn about communion, not science, but but those clothes, back to my original point, those clothes that we wear, God gives us. Yes, ma'am. You're thirsty? You're on your percent, aren't you? Did Jenna offer you another juice box a minute ago? She did? I thought, did you? Yeah. Okay. We'll get you one. We'll get you one. That's okay. We'll get you one. I know. You already had a juice box. Now listen. Okay. But what I'm saying is those clothes, okay, God helped provide. No, Miss Gina's got it. Miss Gina's got it. Those clothes, okay, these are ways that God takes care of you, okay? Your parents' job is to take care of you, right? Okay. And God takes care of them. And God helps take care of you, okay? But that's the reason why I told that story, okay? God will give us what we need. He may not always give us what we want, okay? But He will always give us what we need, all right? So let's go ahead and flip over to the next page. Oh, we do? Oh. they have to watch it? Okay. Well, help me remember. That way we'll do it. Okay. All right. Next page, page 16, buried treasure. All right. Nick and Samantha Perry came out of the St. Clair's school. See that word saint right there? St. Clair. St. Clair was a person, right? She's a saint, right? Where is she now? In heaven. It's on there. It's on page 16, on the other page. Okay. The St. Clair School building with the rest of their class. It was a sunny Friday afternoon. Some of the students ran onto the playground to the swings and jungle gym and slide. Nick and Sam walked with their friends, Brad Wilkes and Kim Lee. Brad grumbled about the homework they were just given in their class about First Communion. Their teacher, Sister Lucy. Now, that's another word we want to talk about a little bit. Okay, everybody sees what Father Mark wears. You know, he wears the black shirt with the white collar and that sort of thing. He's a what? What is Father Mark? He's a priest, right? Okay. Well, he is living as what is called a religious life. Okay. He's a priest. He's a priest in the diocese. Okay. He's our pastor. Okay. But there are other people who also live a religious life, and they live. If you're a woman, you are a nun. Okay, or a religious sister. Okay. Second juice box? Okay. Yeah, I didn't think we should have started that, but that's okay.
That was the prayer for the day. It's not going to happen next week.
Right, not going to happen next week, but we were off last week, so we'll do 2 for the day. Yes, sir. Go to the bathroom. Okay. You remember where it is? Okay. All right. But Sister Lucy, so Sister Lucy is a nun. She is a religious sister. Okay? We'll talk about that another time. Told them, everybody, shh. All right. Told them to prepare a presentation about the important events in their families. Kayla. In their families. She said they should talk about special days they celebrate and bring in meaningful items to show about their family history. Why do teachers talk about the past all the time? Brad said with a frown. What does that have to do with communion? It's a waste of time, he added with a grumble. Now, I've talked about things that happened in the past, right? Okay, that happened. The things that happened to Moses and that happened a long time ago. But we're going to get into that. Sam thought the project would be fun. I don't like to talk about my past, Kim said. It's nobody's business. She tightened her lips and walked away. They were standing near the wooden tool shed. Mr. Norm, the school handyman, stepped out of the shed with a large shovel. He tucked a toothpick into the corner of his mouth. He always had a toothpick on one side of his mouth or the other. All the kids liked Mr. Norm. He often joked with them. Time to get to work, he said to the kids. What are you going to do? Nick asked. Dig for buried treasure, he said. He put the shovel over his shoulder and walked off. The 3 kids watched him. He went to the corner of the playground by the fence and started to dig. Nick, Sam, and Brad looked at each other and then ran to him. Buried treasure, Brad said. Maybe, Mr. Norm said. A long time ago, there was a gold prospector named Old Stockyard Willis. He had a shack on this very spot. Mr. Norm broke through the grass to the dark dirt underneath. The kids watched and waited. Well, Mr. Graham is the town historian, and he said he found some old letters belonging to Mr. Willis. One of the letters said he buried a box right here. Father Cliff told me to dig it up. Do you remember where the bathroom is? Okay. There's really buried treasure, Brad asked. His eyes were big. Mr. Norm stopped digging. He moved the toothpick from one side of his mouth to the other. He looked at Brad. Why should you care? It's from the past. It's a waste of time. Okay. Brad's cheeks turned red. He looked down at his shoes. Mr. Norm winked at Sam. Why should any of us care what happened in the past? Except that everything you see wouldn't be here. No playground, no school, the bikes you ride on, your homes. They're only here because someone in the past made them. Think about that for just a second. The clothes that you're wearing, the food that you're eating, the mask that you guys are wearing. Now, they weren't made a long time ago, but they were made in the past. Okay? Everything we learn today, come next week, will be in the past. Yeah, it means it's already happened. Okay? But if you don't know something, it's because nobody in the past taught it to you. Okay? All right. Mr. Norm pointed to St. Clair's Church across the playground. What happens in there is because of what God did in the past. Brad fumed. He kicked at the dirt. There's no buried treasure. You only said that to tease us, he stormed off. Nick and Sam looked at Mr. Norm. Mr. Norm smiled and said, the past is always present. Okay. He went back to digging. At dinner that evening, Nick and Sam heard from their mom that Mr. Norm had dug up a box that once belonged to old Stockyard Willis. Inside he found a few nuggets of gold, some tools, an oil lamp, a set of false teeth, and a silver crucifix. That's a crucifix, in case you guys are wondering. When we see Jesus on the cross, that item, that thing that we're looking at is a crucifix. Jesus was crucified. Okay, that's crucifixion. The way Jesus died, he died because of crucifixion. Okay? So that's a crucifix, in case anybody's wondering. Not much of a treasure, Nick said. They were treasures to old Stockyard Willis, Miss Perry said. Sam thought about Kim and wondered why she didn't talk about her past. Okay? Now, we just learned about, in the story here, we learned about why it's important to learn about the past. Okay, let's think about that for a second. Why did Mr. Norm, the handyman, say we should care about the past? Why do you think we should care about the past? It's already happened. Why should we care about it? Okay, why should we care about the past? Speak up. Speak up. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'll remember that one of these days. I wish we had a mic in here that would pick everybody up. Like a mic we can hang up or something to pick up everybody. Why should we care about the past?
Because if we do something good, we can remember it and we can do it again.
That's one good way. Also, we do something bad, we can remember it, and we don't do it again. Yep. Kind of the opposite of that. What's another reason why we should remember the past? What?
I said tacos.
Well, tacos are made technically you make them, then they're in the past, but of course you eat them now, so I guess technically they would be in the present. But think about that for just a second. Talk about tacos. We'll use that for an example. If somebody had not made the first taco, okay?
I would have.
If somebody had not made the first taco, all right, or the first pizza, the first, whatever, and then taught it to somebody else, well, then that person wouldn't have made it and then taught it to somebody else. And eventually, those sorts of things would go away. Okay? So why is it important that we remember about the past? Okay? What do you think he meant when he said the past is always present? Okay? Why should we remember the past, and why is the past always present? Why should we remember about the past? What did it say in the story here? What was one thing it said in the story here? What did Mr. Norm say? Okay. Okay. Why should any of us care what happened in the past? Except that everything you see wouldn't be here. Okay? The building we're in right now, okay? Somebody made that in the past. Okay? We wouldn't have this building if somebody hadn't built it. But they built it in the past to us, to us now. when they were building it, of course, it was the present. We're in the present right now. We're talking about things where, it's the present. But if nobody in the past had built this building, we wouldn't have it. Okay? All the things that we have are because someone did them in the past. Okay? Now, what does it mean about the past is always present? Think about that for a second. What does that mean about the past is always present? Think about it for just a minute. Yes, hang on. Whoa. Let me do it right this time. What do you think?
Because God died. Because God died.
Because God died? No, that's not exactly what we're talking about. But that did happen in the past. Okay? Things that people did in the past, okay, made things the way they are today. Okay? Remember what I said about the tacos? Okay. The very first person that made tacos, the very first person that ever made a taco, figured out, I can take this piece of bread here, this what we call a tortilla. I can put some meat in it. I can put some vegetables in it, and we can wrap it up a little bit and hold it and eat it. Cheese. The very first tacos might not have had cheese, but I bet they did. They could have. Well, I'm pretty sure they didn't have sour cream, but they could have. But the point I'm trying to say. Yes, go ahead.
I think I forgot then.
You what?
I forgot.
You forgot? That's okay. But we could use any example, but to use his example is the first person that came up with the way to do that. Okay. They then taught it to somebody else so that person can do it. If that had never happened, we wouldn't be able to enjoy them today. Okay? The things that happened in the past can then help people enjoy them today. It's got a little while left, baby. It's got a little while, about 45 minutes. Okay. Kayla, did you have a question? Did you have a question? You had your hand up. What's your question? Or what would you want to say? It's okay. You think about it and I'll come back, okay? Raise your hand again. Keep your head up. Okay. But we learn about the things in the past because they affect the way we are today. Okay? All right, look at your clothes. Okay? All right. See how my shirt looks? See how your shirts look? Do you think shirts look like this 100 years ago? No. Okay. But they looked the way they did for the time. Do you think those shirts 100 years ago look like the same as they did 100 years before that? No. Things change, okay? And if we don't remember what happened in the past, okay, then we can lose how we need to be for the future, okay? But if we don't remember what happened a long time ago, we won't have. Like I said, if you think about about a taco, if no one had thought about how to make that and then taught someone else how to make that, we wouldn't have tacos today. Okay? People are coming up with new ways to have food all the time. But we've always had food, right? But if you don't teach that to somebody else, well, then nobody else gets to enjoy that. You may figure out how it works. But if you don't say, hey, let me show you how I did this. And then they start making it. And it doesn't matter what it is. It can be anything. But that's why we have to learn about the past. Now, huh? Peanut butter and pickles. Did you say pajamas? Take your mat. I can't take your mat when you. Chimichanga. That's another good example. I like chimichangas. They're really good. Chimichangas. But now when we say the past is always present, okay, Think about that. The first person that made the taco. Now, the taco is probably not the same today as it was very, very first made. Like we just said, the shirts we wear, they don't look the same as they did 100 years ago or the 100 years before that. But we still have shirts. We still have pants. We still have whatever. Shoes. I can tell you right now, shoes are not the same today as they were when I was a kid. Okay? I mean, just because things get better, yeah. Phones, definitely those. When I was a kid, those things didn't exist. But they do now. Okay? All your life, everybody in here taking this class, for your whole life, smartphones have existed. But I can remember when smartphones first came out. Okay? But when we talk about the past is present, the past is always present. Things in the past, as things move on and things get better, okay, the things that we have done a long time ago still are made present today. Okay? Like I say, they had shirts 200 years ago that didn't look the same as they do now. They didn't necessarily function the way they did now. Like button-up shirts and things like that. You know what I mean? They didn't have those things. But the past is made present because someone made this in the past. It's always going to be here. Yes, ma'am. In just a little while ago. Oh, that reminds me. I meant to get that ran off. I'll go get Miss Debbie to run those off in just a minute. Thank you. I forgot about that. Now, why are the events of the Bible important to us today? Okay, the things we talked about, okay, the Passover, the Israelites going 40 years in the desert to the Promised Land, that happened well over 5,000 years ago. Why are those important today? Okay, we're here to learn about First Communion. Why is it important to learn about Passover? Why would that be important? What does that have to do with communion, right? What does that have to do with learning about First Communion? Or First Reconciliation? What would that have to do with any of that? Why are the Bible stories that we have, why are they important today? Come on, think about this for a second. Why are they important? Don't play with your empty juice box. Why are they important today?
To learn about God?
To learn about God. That's one thing. That's one way they're important. But what about God? Like, what are we learning about God? Like, the thing about God that's important. When we learn about Bible stories. Okay, let me ask you a question. Does everybody remember what Passover was? What happened during the first Passover? What happened? We're going to go back to the beginning of what we learned in the first part of we first started talking about it. What happened during the first Passover? Oh, come on. You guys remember what happened. Remember about the door? Right. The what? Painted the what on the door? The blood. The blood of what? The lamb.
The baby sheep.
Right. And what kind of lamb was it? Spotless lamb. Right. The spotless lamb. Right? Why did they paint the lamb's blood on the door? So the angel of death would do what? Pass what? Pass over their house. Remember I talked about that? Imagine the Israelites are in a house, okay? And you've got this house here, okay, because not all houses look the same. You got this house over here, okay? All right, that's probably like a window. We'll do the door over here. Okay, all right. Remember, so we said we had these houses, okay? And those that painted the blood on the door, okay, let's say this house painted the blood on the door. And these two didn't. What would happen? Their firstborn son would die, right? That was one of the plagues that God gave, God sent to Egypt to tell the Pharaoh to let God's people go. Remember? Moses told Pharaoh, let my people go. Talking about the Israelites. Remember that? Everybody remember who Moses was? We talked about Moses. Moses grew up in the Pharaoh's family, but he was an Israelite. Remember his mom? We talked about his mommy put him in a basket and put him in the river. Remember that? Okay. But okay, they painted the blood on the door. So what did the angel? If this is the angel of death over here, okay, this squiggly thing over here we'll say is the angel of death, right? All right, that's the angel of death. Okay. Now the angel of death is coming along this way, right? What's going to happen to this house? Nothing. The angel's going to pass over, right? But what's going to happen here? Firstborn son's going to die. What's going to happen here? Firstborn son's going to die. Okay? So what did God do for the Israelites? What did he do? He told them to paint the blood on the door so the Passover would happen. What did he do for them? He saved them. He saved them from the plague. Now, he brought the plague to show Pharaoh to let the people go. Okay? But he saved them. Now, we didn't talk about this part about Moses, about what happened after they left. So we're going to talk about it for just a minute. And I don't think it's actually in your books, but we're going to talk about it. Okay? Real quick. When the Israelites left Egypt, okay, when they left Egypt, Pharaoh still didn't want to let them go. Okay? Even after all of this, and after him telling them, leave, get out. We don't want you here anymore. Our firstborn son died. Firstborn sons died. You know, the firstborn sons died. Get out. We don't want you here anymore. Take your stuff and leave. Okay. So what did the Israelites do? They took their stuff and left. But while they were leaving, Pharaoh changed his mind. Okay. Pharaoh said, you know what? I've made a mistake. I'm going to go get them and bring them back. Okay. Now, I don't know how much of you guys know anything about geography. Like how much geography you know. But there's this body of water just off of Egypt, okay, called the Red Sea. All right. Is it red? No. Why it's called the Red Sea, I don't really remember right now. And I'm going to find that out and let you guys know. But it's called the Red Sea. I'm sure it has, there's a reason why it's called the Red Sea. But it looks like any other part of the ocean. Okay, most of the time, I'm sure. But it's called the Red Sea. Now, the way that God was leading the Israelites, he led them to the sea. Can you walk on water? Have you ever tried it? Yes. Have you tried it? Doesn't work, does it? You put your foot on that water, and what happens? It goes right through, right? Can't walk on the water. Why is the Red Sea called the Red Sea, Miss Jeannie?
The Red Sea is the saltiest sea of all the seas that connect to the ocean without even one river meeting the sea. A popular hypothesis of the origins of the Red Sea's name is that it contains a cyanobacteria called a whole bunch of letters, which turns the normally blue-green water a reddish brown.
Oh, okay. I knew there had to be a reason why they called it the Red Sea. Okay. So, they get to the Red Sea, right? They're there. You can't walk on water. There have been two people in the history of the world that have walked on water, though. Do we know who they are? Jesus and who? God. No. Jesus is God, right? No. This is to see what you might have picked up from time to time. Peter did walk on the water for a very short period of time. And then he started to get scared and he doubted what was happening and he started to sink. Okay. But there were two people who did walk on the water. Peter got out of the boat. I'm sure have heard the story about Jesus walking on water. Jesus walks to the apostles while they're in the boat. Peter gets out of the boat and he walks part of the way and then he starts to doubt and then he starts to sink. Okay? His faith, God gave him the ability to walk on the water because of his faith. Okay? So, but there was 2 people that have walked on water. Well, yeah, he could if he wanted to. He didn't have to. He just walked out on the water. Now, that's a whole nother story for another day. Yes, sir.
Moses?
No. Jesus and Peter walked on the water. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no.
Just straight. Okay. All right. Now, back to what I was saying. If I can remember what I was saying. Okay. Moses led the people, left the Israelites to the Red Sea. Now, you can't walk on water. We've established that, right? Can't walk on water. Okay? But God was not going to lead them to the ocean just so that way the Pharaoh could come along and bring them back, right? God used Moses and he parted the Red Sea. Now, when we say he parted the Red Sea, okay, how many of you have ever, like when you brush your hair, you push part of your hair one way and part of your hair the other way? What do they call that? A part. You parted your hair. Okay? Now think about this. If you've got the water like this, right? And we're going to kind of draw the bottom just so that we got to kind of get a look at it. This would be the bottom of the ocean, the floor of the ocean. And this water. And it a river, whatever. You have water and then the bottom, right? The water's got to ride on something, right? It could be rocks, could be anything, right? If we part this water, right, what we do is we have an opening, like right here, and then water would go here, water would go here. This area right here would be dry. You could walk on that, walking on the ground, right? So you got people down here walking on the water. If I can draw stick figures, I'm not an artist. I need to get Sandra or Trinity up here to draw me a picture. Yes, ma'am. I have not. Now, my kids have watched it a bunch of times, but I personally have not ever seen it. But does that happen too in Moana? Okay, I kind of figured that's where you're going. The movie Moana. Like, I'm sure you've all probably seen Moana. I have not actually watched that yet. I don't know why. It's not that I'm trying to not watch it. I just never have watched it. I don't know why. I've seen a lot of Disney movies. Thank you very much. But anyway, so now, okay, let's back. Okay, everybody, hey, back over here. Back over here. All right, now listen. So Moses took the Israelites, God, told him to lead the Israelites, and they get to the Red Sea. Now he parts the sea, right? There's actually a movie. It's called The 10 Commandments, right? Wasn't that the 10 Commandments? Charlton Heston? Yeah, okay. There's actually a movie about all of this. It's a very good movie. It's an old movie, but it's a good movie. So hang on. I'll get there in a second. So God takes the Israelites and leads them to the Red Sea. Okay. Now God used Moses, and Moses holds up his arms. And while he's holding up his arms, God is parting the Red Sea. Okay. If he ever started to drop his arms, the sea would start to come back together. So people would help hold his arms up long enough for him to hold them up so everybody could get across. Now, okay, the Red Sea, when we use the word sea, that means a really big body of water, right? Lake Guntersville's pretty big. Okay, it's many miles long. But it's not a sea. A sea is very big. Very big. Okay? And there's a lot of Israelites. It's going to take them a long time to walk from one shore to the other shore. So he's got to hold his arms up for hours. That's why he had people help him. Okay? But while he's holding his arms up, God is parting the Red Sea. Okay? God is using Moses to part the Red Sea. Yes? What?
They got a hammer and got that thing, pointed thing. And
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
they got the hammer and they
Hammer. Okay. Oh, go ahead. I'm just making sure I'm understanding you.
and then they got that sharpie thing and they slap it on there
I don't think so. He had a staff in his hand, if I understand it right. You know, because he's walking a long way. A lot of times you walk with a stick to help you walk, to give you balance. Okay? People who hike do stuff like that. Okay? But he's holding up his arms, and God's parting the Red Sea. Okay? Now, once all the Israelites were across, and he got across, well, now here comes Pharaoh and the Egyptians, right? And they see this Red Sea being parted. What do you think they did? Went after him, right? Yes, ma'am. He just said, "We're gonna cut. I promise, we're gonna cut." Okay, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Okay, just be patient. I'm almost done. Okay, now, what did I say happened earlier when Moses started to drop his arms? The water would start to come back together, right? So now all the Israelites are across. The Egyptians are coming after them, which means they're out there where the Red Sea is, but it's parted. What happened when Moses did this? The sea went back together. What do you think happened to the Egyptians? They drowned. That's right. Okay. But back to what going all, I know that's a long story. We're going to go back around to what I was originally trying to say about remembering the stories of the past. Now, do we have to know about this story? Well, I said we need 3 things: food, clothing, shelter. That's the things we have to have, right, to survive. Okay. But we learn about these stories, we learn about the past to learn how God not saved, but saves us. We learn about these stories to learn about the ways that God has saved his people, how he saves his people. Because it's still going on today, right? Remember we said the past is always present? Okay? Past is always present, right? What's the matter, K-Bud? Okay. The past is always present, okay? Things that happened in the past are still present today. Okay? But we learn about these stories because we learn about the way God saves us or has saved us. Okay? I'm going to ask one more question. We're trying to go over this pretty quickly. Oh, wait, here it says. You know, and these things that are going on are real things. Okay? All right? These are real things. Like our clothes are real. The things. All right. Okay, now we're going to talk about this real quick. Okay? But what are some of the things that Jesus said or did that impact us today? Okay. What are some of the things that Jesus said or did? What's one thing Jesus said or did that impact us today, right? Now, when we're in Mass, right? And Father gets to that part in Mass where he says that Jesus took the bread and he held it in his hands and he said, "Take this, all of you, and eat it. This is my body." Okay? Jesus did that. Okay? But that still impacts us today. Why? When we say the word impacts, okay, means it has something to do with us. Like it has an effect on us, right? Because Jesus did that, we have this. If Jesus had never done that, said, "Take this take this bread, this is my body, take this cup, this is my blood." If he had never done that, we would not have this. Okay? That's one way Jesus impacts us today. There's another way Jesus impacts us today, and it's this. Right. If Jesus had not given us the sacraments, we would not have them today. Okay? You have to have had it. To have it in the future, you have to have done it in the past. And because we did things in the past, they're always here for us now. Now, can things go away? Yes, things can stop. Okay? But that's why we learn about them. That's why we remember them. That's why it's important to learn about Bible stories. That's why it's important to learn and know these things. Because if we don't learn and know these things, guess what happens? we lose them, right? How many of you have ever heard the phrase, if you don't use it, you lose it? Right, exactly. If you don't use it, you lose it. That also goes about Bible stories too, okay? If you don't use it, you lose it, okay? Yes, sir. Hang on. Do it again.
If you do use it, you won't lose it.
Right. If you do use it, you won't lose it. But now we're going to talk. Well, actually, I tell you what. We'll pick that part. We'll pick this last question up and talk more about it next week. And kind of finish this up. Because I think if we don't color pretty soon, Miss Riley's going to have a fit. So we're going. So Trinity, come here, please. I meant to do this earlier. Where did I do it? Yeah, I'm gonna get. Okay, I wasn't sure if you were done. What happened?
Asking her if she wanted me to record them watching the video because it's a recording.
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
You want
Let's
to do
go.
the video?
Just do the video,
Okay.
and then we'll do the color. Because like I said, the video's 3 minutes. Not. What did I brought that in? Did I not? I thought I did. I thought I brought the coloring book in. Was pretty sure I did. There's the Bible.
Excuse me, sweetie pie. I am going to go sign
Oh,
off
right here it
on
is.
this.
Right here it is. Yep, right here it is. You may go to the bathroom. Go right ahead. I want you. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Make about 20.